Hi, and welcome to This Week in East Brunswick, the town's own news and information program. Tonight we'll start with a look at this year's fishing derby, held at Dallenbach's Lake by the East Brunswick PBA. We'll head over to the East Brunswick Museum and hear from Catherine Cody about the museum's new exhibit on dolls. At the library, we'll look at the works of photographer Sue Torcony as part of the library's Artist in Residence program. As part of this week's school news, Information Officer Amy Fisher will interview two students from S.A.D.D, Students Against Driving Drunk. Our regular features will include agricultural agent Pegi Howells and tips for growing tomatoes. Health facts with Edna Ranck of the Child Care Clearinghouse for the Division of Youth and Family Services. Consumer advocate Adrian Eisner with information on pool safety. And we'll wrap up with our Township Council review. All this and more coming up, but first a look at what's on Channel 8 next week. On Monday, our regular cablecast will not be seen due to the Memorial Day holiday. But Tuesday at 7 p.m., it's Kids Stuff, produced by the Libraries of Middlesex, featuring the art of origami with Sandy Satin. At 7:30, it's Sports Talk with John Megliaro and his guest, Dr. Robert Gilbert, discussing sports psychology. Wednesday at 2:30, it's Look Great, Feel Great with Lenore Kulik, and at 3 p.m., it's Stories for the Kids, read by East Brunswick children's librarians. Wednesday evening at 7:30, it's For Art's Sake with Dolly Vasta and a look at the Pinelands exhibit at the New Jersey State Museum. And at 8 p.m., it's The Arts, produced by the Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission. And we'll be back next Thursday at 7 and 8 p.m. with an all-new edition of This Week in East Brunswick. Be sure to check the Channel 8 program guide for repeats of all of our shows.
Over 100 township kids participated in the PBA's second annual fishing derby last Saturday. Though not everyone here caught a fish, all seemed to have a great time.
I'm Officer Ken Wallace, East Brunswick PBA Local 145 here at Dallenbach Lakes for our second annual fishing derby. Earlier in the week, we stocked 750 trout ranging in size from 9 to 22 inches. We have approximately 110 children here fishing, and it seems like all the children are having a pretty good time. So far, the biggest trout brought in is a 13-inch brook trout. We also had two youngsters that had to go away a little disappointed. One caught a 15-inch bass and the other a 17-inch bass. However, due to state regulations, they had to be released, but the fish were checked in under the children's names. We're already planning and looking forward to the third annual PBA fishing tournament, and we just hope for a little bigger turnout, more children.
Wallace says the annual derby is one of the ways the PBA reaches out to township youth. He adds the PBA awarded fishing poles to those youngsters who brought in the largest catch. But whether large or small, the pride of the catch was obvious.
Hi everyone, my name is Kathy Cody and Alberta Uhas, and I have been working madly for the past few weeks to set up Mary Elizabeth's birthday party, to which I'm inviting all of you. The Museum Corporation has this particular exhibit for several months. We are very proud of this newest display in the recently refurbished museum. We have dolls from many lands. We have very old dolls, and we have some beautiful reproductions. There are collectors from the town of East Brunswick and Highland Park. We have some very beautiful dolls from Barnegat, New Jersey. So come and see the many doll houses that we have, and we're particularly featuring a very beautiful doll house and some other interesting little village buildings which were done by Alburn Emmons. And those of you who are interested in doll houses will really appreciate these that are so meticulously and creatively done. Just so that we have all our boys to share in this. We have a very interesting exhibit of old farm implements, and one of our guides, Mark Nunnenstad, will give them a working tour of that section of the museum. So we think that your coming here will be a delightful experience. On the 12th of July, as an added feature, we are having a live doll show, and we invite all of you to bring your little ones, boys or girls, and dress them as living dolls from many lands. I'm sure they will enjoy Mary Elizabeth's birthday party, and we will enjoy seeing these many children. Perhaps the age range could be from 4 to 7 or 8, and please mark that date on your calendar. That's Sunday, July 12th. So please come and join us, and remember, we're open every Saturday and Sunday from 1:30 until 4:30, and we know you'll just have a great day.
This is Peggy Ballister-Howells, Middlesex County Agricultural Agent, and today we're going to talk about the #1 most popular backyard garden vegetable, and that's the tomato. And here we have a fine specimen of a tomato, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways to plant it. I've already prepared the bed. It's been limed and fertilized and turned over properly, and we're going to dig a hole and stick it in the ground. But it's not just as simple as that. Tomatoes are one of the few plants that have the ability to generate roots all along the stem. Many plants, if you plant them deeper, will rot, but not the tomato. And of course, the bigger the root system, the better the plant will grow. So there's a couple of different ways of planting the tomato. Now what I'm going to do right now is dig one hole very deep, straight down. Now I'll pop this little baby out of the pot, and this is what I'm going to do that's going to surprise people. I'm taking off the leaves, all of them, almost, except for the ones at the very top. Okay, I'm going to plant this straight down, put the soil back in around it, so that all we have exposed is the new growth on the top. That will allow the plant to generate roots along the stem, have a healthier root system, and it also has fewer leaves on top, so that transpiration will be smaller while it's getting used to being planted in its new spot. Now that's one technique. There is another technique that we'll show you in this spot. Rather than digging a hole straight down, you dig actually like a little valley. You take the tomato plant, again, remove the leaves from the bottom. Poor little thing looks a little naked like this, and then lay it down. And it will eventually turn and grow upright, straight up, since it grows towards the sun. So those are two different methods, and both methods take advantage of the fact that you will generate more roots along the stem. Now, after you have the tomato plant in the ground, you need to come up with a method of support. Tomatoes can just grow along the ground, but if you do that, what happens is that you get a lot of rot on the fruit. Now this is a standard old broom handle. You can buy stakes. Many different stores sell different kinds, or you can just buy wood and cut them yourself. But this is a very handy item to have. Now you want to be careful when you put in your tomato stake, especially on that one where the roots are all along the ground, because you can disturb the root system. And you always put the stake in, or any kind of support system, at planting time, because if you go to stick this stake in 3 weeks from now, you'll be injuring the roots. So here we go. And as the plant grows, it will be tied to the stake. You will use the string in a figure-8 formation so that it puts less pressure on the stem. And you will remove the sucker shoot so it'll grow straight up along the stake. Now your other option is to use a cage. Now these are kind of a fun way. This is 2 tomato cages. There are very small tomato cages that actually come only up to here, that are really worthless for tomatoes. They're just too small. What I've done is taken two very inexpensive tomato cages, cut the prongs off one end, and tied them together. Between the two of them, I have a very inexpensive tomato cage that should be large enough to handle a tomato when it gets to be full size. So we have two different ways of planting the most favorite garden vegetable and two different ways of supporting it. And we'll see you here next week where we're going to talk about bulbs for planting during the summer. This is Peggy Ballister-Howells, Middlesex County Agricultural Agent. See you then.
Hi, I'm Amy Fisher. This week's school news features the East Brunswick High School chapter of Students Against Driving Drunk, which is more popularly known as S.A.D. And with me are Michelle Hartman, who's the president of S.A.D., and Michael Newman, who's the vice president of S.A.D. Michelle, you have a big event coming up May 26th through 30th. What is that?
We have S.A.D. Week. May 26th, we had Township Proclamation and a Board of Education proclamation proclaiming May 26th through 30th S.A.D. Week. May 26th, we're having a guest speaker, Mr. Ranck. He's a national consultant on drug and alcohol abuse, and he'll speak at 2 assemblies in school, and then he'll go to driver's ed classes, and at nighttime we're having a community evening program at 7:30, and the whole community is invited to attend. And during February or March, I think it was, we had a Bound Monroe poster contest, and the awards will be given out to those kids on May 26th. And on May 27th, we're having a mini vigil at the gazebo in the East Brunswick Public Library to as like in remembrance of all those people, residents of East Brunswick and of Middlesex County, who were killed by drunk drivers.
Right, and so you really would like the community to come to both of those events, one on Tuesday, May 26th at 7:30 in the East Brunswick High School auditorium, and the other in the gazebo on Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, their support is really appreciated, and I think the one on Tuesday will be very, very informative. He's supposed to be a very well-known speaker.
Right. Mike, why did S.A.D. choose May 26th to 30th to be S.A.D. Week?
Okay, well, the main reason we chose that week is that the prom is on May 30th, the East Brunswick prom, and we realized that most teenage kids don't remember serious things or serious topics for very long, and we figured that if we can at least drill the idea or express the idea greatly within that week before the prom, at least they'll remember that idea before the prom and maybe save some injuries or save some lives, because drinking is very prevalent at parties in or around the prom time. And that's why we just want them to remember it then. If they don't remember it any other time, this one time of the year is one of the biggest times for drinking of the whole year.
There are some statistics that show since S.A.D. was established nationally that the percentage of teenage fatalities due to alcohol has dropped. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it decreased 2/3% since 1981.
Now, Michelle, the S.A.D. people ask teenagers and their parents to sign contracts that if they're drinking at a party, they will not drink and drive, and they won't go home with anybody who's been drinking. And that raises a question. Some people have the idea that S.A.D. condones drinking by teenagers, and I know you say that isn't true, so could you explain that?
Okay, what the S.A.D. contract is, the teenager agrees that if they go to a party and their ride or their friend has had anything to drink, that they'll call their parents and ask for a ride home. And in turn, the parent agrees that they will not ask any questions at that time. They will send for a cab just to take them home, or they will go pick them up. Now, one of the problems I've had, many people ask me, S.A.D. does condone drinking. I don't think that's true, because personally I don't, and most, I would say, the S.A.D. Executive Board doesn't drink. And parties I go to don't, but a lot of people do, and you know it, teenagers do, and it's a thing throughout time, and it's been done, and maybe S.A.D. can't prevent that right now, because we have to work on one problem at a time. And I think the purpose for S.A.D. is to stop drunk driving and not to try and combat the other problem.
Right, so that's what your efforts are, is to say if you're drinking, just don't drive and stay alive, essentially, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You have other things planned for the week. What are some things you have planned for the school day?
Well, during the school day, we plan to use the PA system, the school PA system, extensively with 15-second or 30-second spots in which we'll give brief announcements or brief facts concerning drinking and driving. We have a recording that the Reader's Digest sent us that tells the message very well. It's a humorous story about a kid who was drunk and drinking and driving, who ended up having to go on all his dates with his mother. it's kind of a humorous story, but it does tell the truth about what can happen, and it does tell the more serious side of the results of drinking and driving. Also, during lunch, we're going to be showing, during lunch periods in the cafeteria, we'll be showing videotapes of many different shows dealing with drinking and driving, and some also with drugs and their effects, so that just by being in the cafeteria, the lunchroom, anybody can just look over and see one of the experts in the field speaking on TV.
Oh, that's really great. Well, I know East Brunswick High School's chapter has just been in existence about 2 years, and you already have about 200 members. Is that right?
Yes.
And why did you get involved, Michelle?
Basically, when I was a freshman, I had seen like a lot of things on TV and read things. Then I came to East Brunswick. I was thinking about starting one. It was funny. I talked to my friend about it. And the next year, somebody started, so I joined the executive board in my junior year, and I worked actively on it. And then this year, I became president.
And Mike, what about you?
Well, to me, out of all the different organizations in the school, all of which do their jobs effectively, S.A.D.D is one of the few organizations that can really help people and help prevent injuries and help prevent lives. It really does something important for the entire community as a whole. And that's one of the reasons why we want the community to come in during S.A.D.D. We can see some of the activities to understand exactly what we do.
Well, we thank you very much for being here. We hope the whole community goes out and supports S.A.D.D at its meetings. And thanks for watching.
Artist Sue Torcony brought a selection of her hand-colored photographs to the library last weekend as this year's final participant in the Art Goes Public series. She explained how she makes the prints.
All the work starts out originally as a black and white photograph, such as this one on the top. The second print is martial oil on a black and white photograph on matte paper, and the third print is martial oil on a sepia-toned photograph, which is also on matte paper. It's basically chemistry and paint. I take all my own photographs, I do all my own processing, and I evolved to coloring photographs because I originally was a painter. The pigment used on these photographs is called martial oil. It's a transparent oil medium specifically for photographic paper. However, you could really use it on anything, but you can't use anything on the prints. My work is either landscape or people or nature. The pigment lasts forever, so you can work with either a Q-tip or a cotton ball, brush, or your finger. Some of the tubes I have here are 15 years old, and this gives you an idea of how long the pigment will last. The color I'm using right now in the background is actually called flesh. And as you would figure out, it's used for people, but it also makes a beautiful background color for a fall landscape. The background on this print will be green and flesh. And the foreground with the people in it, I'll use martial oil pencils for detail. You really can't predict what you're going to get until you're finished. And when you are finished, you wipe the whole print down, let it dry, and the next day when you look at it, there it is, and it's either great or not. If you don't like it, you can use a solution called PM, which will wipe all the pigment off, or you can use plain old turpentine. If you use turpentine and you don't do it immediately, you run the risk of destroying the print, which sends you back into the darkroom.
The library plans to begin an all-new Art Goes Public series next year.
My name is Jonah Pense. I'm a 9th grader at Churchill Junior High School. I'm bringing you this week's comment on the Constitution. My topic is the situations during the Constitutional Convention. September 17, 1787, 38 of the 55 delegates involved in the Constitutional Convention were present. They were there to experience the result of one of the greatest miracles ever wrought, the formal presentation of the Constitution. This was a document that all the delegates together had labored to write, and this was a result of their 5 months of continuous work. As in that famous picture of this day, the stately air of each individual could be noticed clearly, especially that of the presiding officer, George Washington. The milestones to that day had actually not been that easy. 55 intellectual geniuses packed into the one chamber of the large State House could get very crowded. This was during Pennsylvania's exhaustingly hot summer months, and the delegates were all quite strongly built. At that time, it was a social norm to be obese, and John Adams alone weighed about 275 pounds. The New Englandmen, or Eastern gentlemen present, were, to top it off, in heavy woolen suits. It was the Southerners who were more suitably dressed, in light camlet coats and breeches. The chamber that they were in was about 40 feet by 40 feet, and had itself gone through much previous decay. The windows and doors were usually shut for secrecy, but even at times when open, the number of horseflies and mosquitoes that entered were much too many. The weather during those long months was unseasonably hot, and the cooling thunderstorms expected were not too frequent. In spite of these, at times, intolerable situations, the delegates did continue their voting, arguing, and writing, and it is this work that brought out the results, our Constitution.
Now here's Edna Ranck of the Child Care Clearinghouse for the Division of Youth and Family Services with this week's Health Fact.
If you're looking for child care, there is a phone number for you to call. Thanks to the New Jersey Child Care Resource and Referral System, you can call a local number and get information about child care services in your particular community. For instance, if you're a mother going back to work after the birth of a child, you can call the agency and ask what kinds of programs are available near your home or your work. Or if you're moving to another county and you need child care in your new place of residence, you'll be able to call an agency and find that information. Perhaps you are somebody who wants to start a child care program. Again, you can call the Child Care Resource and Referral Agency in your area and get the information about the steps to take. Perhaps you are a local or county public official interested in the status of child care in your community. You can find out the information you need in order to improve or increase services. Parents can also call this agency for information about child care subsidies and about federal tax credits. Persons who are already providing child care can call about training resources and try to get technical assistance. The New Jersey Child Care Resource and Referral System, called R&R for short, is one of several programs in Governor Kane's 1.5 million child care initiatives. The purpose of these initiatives is to increase and improve child care services in New Jersey. In the child care system, there is the Child Care Clearinghouse, which coordinates statewide activities and will analyze the data and make recommendations for child care services. There are 3 regional resource centers, one in the north, one in the central, and one in the southern part of the state. And then there are local resource and referral agencies. The one serving Middlesex County is located at the present time in Union County, but it will be able to help you. The number is shown on your screen. My name is Edna Ranck, and this has been Health Facts.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrienne Eisner, Director of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. Now that we are into summer, many of you who own or use swimming pools should be aware of basic safety precautions for children. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, an estimated 300 children under 5 years of age drown each year in residential swimming pools and spas. Here are some tips. Never leave a child unsupervised in a pool. Instruct babysitters about potential hazards to young children in and around swimming pools and the need for constant supervision. Completely fence the pool and position latches out of the reach of young children. Do not consider young children drown-proof because they've had some swimming lessons. They should always be watched carefully while swimming. Do not use flotation devices as a substitute for supervision. Keep toys away from the pool area because a young child playing with toys could accidentally fall into the water. Learn CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Non-slip surfaces should be installed on decks, diving boards, and ladders. Pool depths should be clearly marked. Slides for use by children should be installed where the water is at least 3 feet deep. More depth is required for older children and adults. Divers should observe these precautions. Never dive into above-ground pools because they are too shallow. Dive only from the center of the board. And dive with your hands in front of you and always steer up immediately upon entering the water to avoid hitting the bottom or sides of the pool. I hope that you will take the time to think about these precautions and be sure that you tell all the other members of your family or babysitters to avoid possible tragedy with a young child and a swimming pool accident. Have a safe and happy summer.
A large crowd packed the Township Council agenda meeting Monday night. Most of the residents came out to complain about the roadways in town. Residents living on Ruse Lane asked the council to fight county plans to construct a divider on Ruse Lane between Summerhill Road and Route 18. The residents said the divider would devalue their properties, make daily driving more difficult, and add to what they called poorly planned roads in East Brunswick. Mayor William Fox suggested the council look into the county plans and then take a position. Councilman Jack Sinagra said if the median makes the Ruse Lane strip more safe, he would have no choice but to support it. And residents of Carriage Square, the development most affected by the new Riders Lane, once again asked the council to landscape the new road. The council said planning should be started shortly. Administrator Gregory Fehrenbach said the project was delayed because of a lack of bids from landscapers. And it looks like fees charged to applicants for planning and zoning board services are going to be raised. The council asked Borough Attorney Bertram Bush to prepare an ordinance that would raise the fees. The increase is needed to offset the planning and zoning board's expenses. Also Monday, Mayor William Fox made a plea to the council to support the town's volunteer fire department in their request for a fire training school. Councilman Sinagra said until the tax structure for fire districts is made more equitable, he could not fully support the township funding of such a facility. And on a more solemn note, some township residents called on the council to take swift action to closely monitor truck traffic on Route 18. At this time, a young man driving on Route 18 had already lost his life to an out-of-control garbage truck. But public concern to prevent a similar accident merely foreshadowed the tragedy that occurred Tuesday, when a young couple, their relative, and 2 children were killed by a garbage truck. Tonight, May 21st, the council is holding a vigil at 7:30 p.m. in the courtyard of Volunteer Park at the Municipal Building. Here, the township will mourn the 6 victims of the Edgeboro landfill traffic. Following the vigil, a council meeting will be held to discuss the dump, and a resolution to file a class action lawsuit against Edgeboro Landfill, the state of New Jersey, and Middlesex County will be presented. Also tonight, the public will be heard on this matter. That's all for this week. Thanks for watching.